So today is December 10th, 2017, and quicker than we thought, the Miata has arrived. So I got to look at it a little bit underneath the trailer. Don't see any real damage. I don't know if it's been lowered a little bit. It looks like it. But the biggest thing I was looking at is I didn't see any rust underneath. So I will cover it up because it is Sunday and it is cold. And I'll try to give it a bath this week. And we'll get some more pictures of it before we start out on it. Top is decent, but the zip out rear window isn't any good. The only damage I saw really was, of course, it's missing the driver's side front fender, and it's got some scuffs here on the front fender and door. Interior shop, but I didn't buy it for that. But if we need to, we can cover the seats. There is a hood bra on it, so maybe I can get $5 or $10 for that. But once we get it inside, get to BMW drivable, then we'll get this inside and start measuring it, start taking it apart, and creating our plan. So I think somebody did some playing with this, so it is obviously lowered. It's got a shock tower, homemade or some sort of aftermarket shock tower brace, and it has a remote oil filter, which I hadn't seen on these cars before. So somebody's relocated the airbox. It's usually there. It's just got a tube down there, but everything looks to be there. We'll spend a couple days with this and see if we can get it to run, because I'm sure it'll be a lot easier to sell if it's running, and it is a manual, so that makes it more valuable to most people. It's December 19th, 2017. And the cars are finally together for their first time in the same room. So the Miata had been outside for a little over a week since we got it. So it is now here. We have it up on the cribbing. It is a lot lower, but we'll start doing some measurements a little bit tonight and maybe clean it up so it don't get so dirty from whatever is on that car. And then I'll start doing some measurements. So we're going to leave the top down from now on because this car stinks. I don't know if the top was left down when it sat outside for a long time, or it got caught in a flood, or I know the back window's ripped out of it, so it definitely has water in it, has leaves in it, but I stood on the passenger's floorboard and that seems to be solid. So as long as it's not too rusted underneath, we'll be ready to go. But yeah, interior is not great. So here's a little bit of a bonus. Just crawled under the car for the very first time, so you're seeing it the first time I've seen it, and the first thing I noticed is it's got orange struts on it, which means these, I think, it says AGX, must be some sort of adjustable strut, so I think we're going to have to lift it, so maybe we can get some different springs for it, which we probably will anyway, since we're going with a heavier motor, but I don't see any big concerns yet, but you know, it's the first look. So now looking under from the passenger side, it looks like it's got some sort of homemade aluminum strengthening brace underneath the motor and transmission sport to cradle, but I do see some dents and twists and dings in the frame rails, but that is not a big deal. We're probably going to box those in, make homemade ones for the Pontiac anyway. But I don't see any big structural things at the moment. So it looks like we got a little bit of an aftermarket exhaust system on it, so maybe we can get a couple bucks back out of that. I put a battery on it the other day and got nothing, so I don't think I'm going to spend a lot of time. Yeah, I could probably get some more money for the drivetrain if I showed somebody it started, but how much time do you want to work on fun like that, things like that, when you'd rather be working on cutting it apart? But right now the rear suspension looks good, doesn't look like there's anything bent, but this is just, again, just the initial inspection. I don't see any rust in the frame rails, in the control arms, anything like that. So bonus, we have the same dampened, I'm not sure, rebound, whatever. Or not coilovers, but struts, aftermarket struts in the back. So a little research on those, maybe we can reuse those. Put a few different springs on them, but rear suspension looks good. All the factory paint's on it. Just tiny bits of rust, but nothing more than surface rust. So you never know when you order something online. Basically buy it from Copart 3-4 states away and have it delivered. So I think we made out of this one okay. So initial inspection of the rear, everything looks good. I don't see any major structural problems. Some young person modifications, but nothing that's really hurt the integrity of the car. So I think we're go for tomorrow to start measuring this and maybe get a little higher. I don't know if my old butt can get underneath this, but I think we're good. We'll start doing some disassembly and some measurement and see where we go from there. More later. So we did a little treasure hunting in the trunk already. So it had probably about a quart of oil in the spare tire well. And all these tools, pieces, parts, and stuff were in it, along with the jack and spare tire donut. So cleaning that out. Yes, I think the back window has been torn for a while and it has set. So I am probably not going to try to get the motor running. I will sell motor and transmission, combo, wiring harness, ECU, all the stuff we don't need as one package, and someone else can figure it out or use it as a buildable core. But at least transmission should be good. So after about an hour and a half of very stinky, smelly, wet, snotty work, we've got down to the floor pans, which I am extremely happy about. That's all factory black paint. So transmission tunnel looks good. Driver's side is the same. Has some new ideas. This is where the factory find wires. That is where the factory seat belts mount. So we might be able to reuse those if everything works well. If we cut it behind the rear seat, we can use that for the rear seat belts. We put those in. So, I mean, the concept's about using all the factory parts as much as possible. We have the handbrake, we have pedals. Can even go as crazy as maybe even reusing the trunk pop and the door for the gas door opener. Maybe see if we can recycle those. So, it's a lot of good parts that'll come out of this. So, first step, very, very happy. So now we've finally got some work done, so they look like twins. So now, hopefully we can do some measurement. We're going to have to lift the Miata up probably an inch or two, because I think it's got drop springs in it. You can tell by the tie rod arm, or tie rods, they are canted upwards. So I'm going to try to make those level and make the pivot point and the lower control arm ball joint as level as possible. But right now things are looking pretty cool, because I think they are not too much difference in size. And believe it or not, I think the Miata is a little bit wider in areas, so I think that's going to help a lot. So I'm going to start doing some measuring and some ciphering and some figuring and see where we're at. Been making some measurements here after lunch and trying to find a center line of the front axle. And I was working off from the passenger side, and I got everything straight and went over and measured, got the other side straight for the driver's side, but the measurements weren't lining up when you measure diagonal and everything else. And especially with that strut brace, you can kind of see that it wasn't lining up. So what I found out was, I think when somebody did an alignment on this one, they kicked the driver or passenger side front wheel back about a half an inch. So now I've got everything squared up, marked a center line, and I think we're ready to roll. So setting the car up, I leveled the rockers. So I opened up the doors and put my electronic level on there and put jack stands under the car and lifted it up. But anyway, shimmed it up so that the rockers were basically zero, and did all my measurements, got my center line of my front axle the way I wanted it, and then I started coming underneath and checking. You can see the two frame rails on each side. I don't know if you can see in this picture or not, and also the cradle, and I checked those with my electronic level on flat surfaces and found those were within 0.2 degrees. So that is going to give me a good reference system so that when I fit everything together using the rockers and that, if I keep the rocker arm or the rockers, the frame rails, what parts I'm going to use of it, and the cradle at zero, then everything should be pretty close back to factory. Made some progress after lunch. Got the headlights out. Those are hopefully a decent recoup cost where I can sell those off because they're complete, and they did work in manual mode. Then I pulled the radiator out, the front fascia out, fenders. Of course, the AC system on this car also was not operational, so was able to just pull it off because it was not charged. Oh, there's a break in a line somewhere or whatever, but we'll work on that in the future. Pulled back the left and right turn signal harnesses and all the wires that's associated with those, and then marked all the terminal connectors for sensors and things like that, stuff that we'll pull out in the future. So the plan is for tomorrow is to go ahead and yank the motor and transmission out. I'll have to back the car up a little bit more so I can use my hoist to get it out, but shouldn't be a big deal. I pulled one of these out before, engine, but not engine and transmission together, but I think there will be enough room.